The festival that changed everything. Ryan Carter stepped off the transport ship, stretching his arms as he looked around. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of sweet fruits and something spicy. He had traveled across the galaxy for this. The Bonding Moon Festival on the planet Severia. It was famous for its colors, music, and the promise of friendship between species. He had read about it in a travel guide. A harmless celebration of unity, it said. A perfect way to experience Severian culture. Ryan smiled. This was exactly what he needed. A fun break from his boring job back on Earth. The festival was a wonder to behold. The entire city was decorated with glowing lanterns that floated in the air. Alien musicians played soft melodies, and everywhere, people laughed and danced. Strange but delicious-looking food lined the streets, and children ran around throwing petals of blue flowers in the air. Ryan had never seen anything like it. He walked through the festival, taking in the sights. A few Severians smiled at him, their deep blue skin and golden eyes shining under the festival lights. They were taller than humans, with elegant features and long, flowing robes. A cheerful old vendor called out to him, holding a glowing fruit the size of a basketball. First time at the Bonding Moon Festival. Try this. It will bring you luck. Ryan grinned and took a bite. Sweet, tangy, perfect. This was the adventure he had been hoping for. A simple dance, a big mistake. As he walked deeper into the festival, Ryan noticed a large crowd gathering in front of a grand stage. Intrigued, he moved closer. On the stage stood the most stunning woman Ryan had ever seen. She had the same blue skin and golden eyes as the others, but there was something different about her. She wore a silver robe decorated with glowing symbols, and a delicate golden circlet rested on her forehead. Her presence was regal, confident, and mesmerizing. Ryan nudged the guy next to him. Who's that? The Severian man looked shocked. You don't know. That's Princess Kyra, daughter of the High King. She is leading the bonding dance. Before Ryan could respond, a festival announcer stepped forward and spoke in a loud voice. The bonding dance begins. Those who wish to honor our tradition, step forward. The crowd cheered. Music boomed. People rushed forward to join the dance. Ryan hesitated. Should I join? It's just a dance, right? The people around him were clapping and encouraging everyone to participate. A young Severian girl pulled on his sleeve, her golden eyes full of excitement. Human, join. It is an honor. Ryan chuckled. All right, why not? He stepped forward onto the stage. The dance that changed everything. The music shifted, a rhythmic, hypnotic beat. The dancers moved in a circle, following Kyra's graceful steps. Ryan tried his best to copy them. Feeling a little silly but enjoying himself, the crowd cheered louder as he kept up with the movements. Then, Kyra turned to face him directly. She extended her hand toward him. Ryan, caught up in the excitement, took it without thinking. The moment their hands touched, the music stopped. The crowd gasped. The air felt heavy. Kyra's golden eyes widened in shock. Her lips parted slightly, as if she couldn't believe what had just happened. Ryan blinked. Did I mess up? The announcer stepped forward, looking pale. The human has performed the bonding ritual with the princess. Ryan froze. The what now? The announcer cleared his throat. By our ancient law, when two souls connect through the bonding dance, they are. He paused dramatically. Engaged. Ryan's stomach dropped. The crowd exploded into cheers. Severians clapped and celebrated. People threw flower petals over his head. May the gods bless this union. Someone shouted. Ryan's heart pounded. Wait. He turned to Kira, hoping she would correct them. But her expression had changed. The shock was gone. Instead, she looked at him with a soft, unreadable smile. It seems the gods have chosen human, she said, her voice calm and full of meaning. Ryan could barely breathe. I accidentally proposed to an alien princess. The moment of no escape. Before Ryan could even process what was happening, the king himself stepped onto the stage. He was tall, imposing, and covered in golden armor. His voice boomed over the festival. "Let it be known across the land, my daughter has found her bondmate. A great union shall be formed between our people." The crowd went wild. Ryan felt like fainting. "Wait, this is a mistake. I didn't mean." A royal guard gently clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Come, honored one, we must prepare you for the ceremony." Ryan's breath caught in his throat. "Ceremony?" The guard smiled. "Your wedding, of course. It begins at sunrise." Ryan screamed internally. "Escape or accept." Ryan sat frozen in a lavish golden carriage, his mind racing as the vehicle glided through the glowing streets of Zavaria. Just moments ago, he had been enjoying a simple festival, and now he was on his way to an alien wedding. This couldn't be real. It had to be a bad dream. Across from him sat Princess Kyra, watching him with an unreadable expression. The soft golden glow of the lanterns outside reflected in her eyes, making her look almost ethereal. "Are you always this quiet, bondmate?" she finally asked, tilting her head slightly. Ryan blinked. "Bondmate." He let out a nervous laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "Listen, I think there's been a mistake." Kyra raised an eyebrow. "A mistake?" "Yeah." Ryan nodded frantically. "See, back on Earth, dancing doesn't mean, marriage. It just means dancing." He waved his hands for emphasis. "I had no idea what the ritual meant. I didn't mean to, propose to you or anything. It was just a misunderstanding, really." Kyra studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. A slow, knowing smile. "You are not the first off-worlder to attend our festival," she said calmly. "But you are the first to step forward and take my hand in the bonding dance." Ryan swallowed hard. It was an accident." Kyra's gaze didn't waver. It was fate. Ryan groaned, dropping his head into his hands. No, it wasn't fate. It was bad luck. The carriage came to a stop outside a towering palace, its shimmering glass-like walls stretching high into the violet sky. Two massive golden doors slowly swung open, revealing a line of Zavarian nobles dressed in elegant robes. At the center stood King Azurian, Kyra's father, and a man who looked even more intimidating up close. "Welcome, son-in-law." The king's voice boomed like thunder. Ryan's stomach twisted. Oh no. The impossible laws of Zavaria. Ryan was quickly led inside the palace, where a feast was already prepared in his honor. He was pushed down onto a velvet chair as Zavarian attendants poured a strange golden liquid into his cup. Exotic food was placed in front of him. Purple meat, glowing fruits, and steaming dishes that smelled strangely like cinnamon and charcoal. He wasn't in the mood to eat. "King Azurian," Ryan started nervously. "I need to talk to you. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I didn't know what the dance meant, and The king raised a hand, silencing him. "There is no misunderstanding," he said firmly. "The bonding moon does not make mistakes. You took my daughter's hand in front of the gods. It is a sacred vow." Ryan clenched his fists. "But I didn't know. On Earth, this isn't how things work. I have a choice, right?" The king's golden eyes darkened. "Choice." His voice was dangerously calm. "Of course, my son-in-law. You have a choice." Ryan exhaled in relief. Finally, some reason. "Great. Then You may refuse the marriage," the king continued. Ryan's eyes lit up. "Yes, exactly. I refuse." The king smiled. "Then, according to our law, you will be exiled from Zavaria, never to return." Ryan's breath caught. "Wait, what?" "Or," the king said, still smiling, "you may challenge for your freedom." Ryan frowned. "Challenge? What kind of challenge?" Before the king could answer, a tall, muscular Zavarian warrior stepped forward. He had sharp features, a long ceremonial sword strapped to his back, and a distinct look of annoyance on his face. "I am Prince Phelan," the warrior said in a cold voice, "Kyra's elder brother. If you wish to break the bond, you must defeat me in a duel." Ryan's jaw dropped. "What?" The king nodded solemnly. "The bonding moon chooses only the strongest. If you refuse the bond, you must prove your unworthiness in combat." Ryan looked at Kyra in horror, hoping she would help. To his shock, she simply sipped her drink calmly, as if this was completely normal. "You have until sunrise to decide," the king said, standing up. "If you do not accept Kyra as your bondmate, you will either fight my son or be banished forever." The royal guards approached, motioning for Ryan to stand. "You will be given a chamber to rest and prepare," one of them said. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest as he was escorted away. Escape plan. Ryan was locked inside a luxurious chamber, but it didn't matter how fancy it was. He was trapped. "Think, Ryan, think," he muttered, pacing back and forth. There was no way he could fight an alien prince and win. Prince Phelan looked like he could snap Ryan in half with one hand. And exile. That sounded bad. Would they throw him into deep space? Ryan ran to the window, looking outside. The palace was on a floating island, surrounded by waterfalls and glowing blue plants. Far below, he could see the rest of the city, bustling, full of life, and full of possible escape routes. Escape. That was the only answer. Ryan searched the room, hoping to find something useful. His eyes landed on a decorative rope hanging from the ceiling. It was thick and strong, almost like the ropes climbers used back on Earth. A plan formed in his mind. He would wait until the palace quieted down, tie the rope to the balcony, and climb down the palace walls. Once he reached the city, he'd find a ship and get off this crazy planet. Ryan took a deep breath, gripping the rope. "All right," he whispered to himself. "Time to get the hell out of here." But just as he turned toward the balcony, his door swung open. Kyra stood there, her arms crossed. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. "You were about to run, weren't you?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. Kyra sighed, stepping inside. "If you try to leave, you'll be caught in less than 10 minutes. The guards are everywhere." Ryan clenched his fists. "Then help me. You know this is a mistake." Kyra tilted her head. "Is it?" Ryan took a step closer. "You don't even know me." She studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, a small, knowing smile. "Then perhaps you should stay a little longer," she said softly. "Let's see if this is truly a mistake." Ryan's breath caught. The alien laws and a dangerous choice. Ryan sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the door Kyra had just walked out of. His mind was spinning. The Bonding Moon Festival had started as a fun adventure, but now he was caught in an alien marriage law with no easy way out. If he refused Kyra, he had only two choices: exile from the planet forever, or a deadly duel against her warrior brother, Prince Phelan. Neither option looked good. He ran a hand through his hair, breathing heavily. There had to be another way, some kind of loophole in their laws. Kyra's words echoed in his mind. "Then perhaps you should stay a little longer." Was she toying with him? Did she actually believe they were meant to be bonded, or was she just testing him? Ryan shook his head. No, he couldn't just sit around and accept this. He needed a way out. The secret meeting. A soft knock at his door startled him. "Come in." The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside, cloaked in a deep navy robe. Their face was hidden, but their voice was soft and urgent. "You are the human," they whispered. "The one bound to the princess." Ryan narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" The figure pulled back their hood, revealing an older Zavarian woman with silver hair and deep blue skin. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "My name is Eloza. I am the keeper of ancient bonds," she said. "I have come to help you." Ryan stood up immediately. "Help me, so you know a way out of this." The Loza's expression was serious. "There is one way to break the bonding moon's law without exile or death. But it is difficult." Ryan felt a surge of hope. "I'll do anything. Just tell me." Eloza took a deep breath. "You must prove that you are unworthy of the bond." Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" She stepped closer. "If a bonded mate is found unfit by the gods, the bond can be broken. There is an ancient challenge, known as the 3 sacred trials. If you fail all 3 trials, you will be declared unworthy, and the marriage will be voided." Ryan's heart raced. This was his way out. "What kind of trials are we talking about?" he asked cautiously. The Loza's expression darkened. "Each trial will test your strength, wisdom, and spirit. If you pass even one, the bond remains." Ryan swallowed hard. That didn't sound great. Still, it was better than exile or a duel to the death. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "I'll take the trials." Eloza nodded slowly. "Then you must prepare. The first trial begins at dawn." The first trial, the hunt of the vortex beast. The next morning, Ryan stood in an open jungle clearing outside the palace, surrounded by Zavarian warriors and nobles. Kyra was seated on a high throne, watching him with an amused expression. Prince Valon stood beside her, arms crossed. His cold gaze made Ryan's stomach twist. Eloza had explained the first trial. To prove his worth, the outsider must hunt the feared vortex beast, a massive 6-legged predator that moves so fast it is nearly invisible. Ryan stared into the dense alien jungle ahead. How the hell was he supposed to do this? A loud horn blasted, signaling the start of the trial. Ryan gritted his teeth and ran into the jungle. The chase. The jungle was thick and humid, filled with glowing plants and strange, shifting shadows. Every branch seemed to pulse with life, and alien insects hummed in the air. Ryan clutched the weapon they had given him, a long silver spear with an energy core in the center. Ahead, a low growl rumbled through the trees. Ryan's blood went cold. Then, a blur of movement. A massive creature leaped out of the shadows, twice the size of a lion, with 6 powerful legs and piercing red eyes. Its body shimmered, distorting like a mirage as it moved. The vortex beast. Ryan barely dodged as the creature swiped at him with razor-sharp claws, ripping through the ground like paper. Nope. Nope. This was a bad idea. He turned and ran. Behind him, the beast charged forward at impossible speed, its movements too fast for the eye to follow. Ryan's heart pounded as he leaped over a fallen tree, struggling to think. There was no way he could outrun this thing. He had to outsmart it. The plan. Ryan remembered something Eloza had told him. The vortex beast does not see as you do. It hunts by sensing movement and heat. That gave him an idea. Ryan skidded to a stop, diving behind a large moss-covered rock. He forced himself to stay perfectly still, barely breathing. The jungle fell silent. The beast emerged, its glowing red eyes scanning the area. Ryan felt his pulse hammering in his skull. The creature stalked forward, sniffing the air, moving closer. Then, it stopped. It couldn't see him. Ryan's fingers tightened around his spear. In one sudden motion, he lunged forward, driving the weapon straight into the beast's side. The creature let out a deafening roar, thrashing wildly, but Ryan held firm, pushing the spear deeper until the energy core ignited, sending a surge of power through the beast's body. With a final snarl, the vortex beast collapsed. Ryan staggered back, panting. He had done it. The jungle was silent again, except for the distant sound of a ceremonial horn blowing. The trial was over. The crowd's reaction. Ryan emerged from the jungle, covered in sweat and scratches. The crowd of nobles gasped, whispering among themselves. Kyra stood up from her throne, her golden eyes shining with something new. Admiration. Prince Valon's jaw tightened. The king rose to his feet, his deep voice booming across the clearing. The outsider has passed the first trial. He has proven his strength. Ryan's stomach dropped. He had won. But that meant he was still bonded. Kyra smiled at him. Well done, bondmate. Ryan's hands clenched. This wasn't over yet. The 3 impossible tasks. Ryan stood in the royal courtyard, still catching his breath from the hunt. The vortex beast lay lifeless behind him, its massive body still smoking from the energy surge of his spear. The crowd of Zavarians murmured in shock. He had done it. He had won the first trial. And that was a huge problem, because it meant he was still bonded to Kira. The king stepped forward, his golden eyes gleaming with approval. The gods have spoken. You have proven your strength, human. The bond remains. Ryan gritted his teeth. This was not how things were supposed to go. He had entered the trial to fail, not to impress an entire alien civilization. His gaze flickered toward Kyra. She was watching him closely, her arms crossed, a small smirk playing at the edge of her lips. She was enjoying this. Ryan turned to Eloza, the keeper of ancient bonds, who had been his only ally in this mess. What happens now? He muttered under his breath. Eloza's face remained unreadable. You have 2 trials left. If you fail both, the bond can still be broken. Ryan exhaled sharply. 2 more chances. He had to lose. But after seeing the way Kyra's people looked at him now, like he was some kind of warrior legend, he knew losing wouldn't be easy. The king's voice echoed across the courtyard. The next trial begins at sunset. Ryan clenched his fists. I have to fail. But first, he had to find out what the next trial was, and whether Kira would let him lose. The second trial. The unbreakable puzzle. At sunset, Ryan was led to an ancient temple deep within the royal palace. Unlike the bright and open architecture of the city, the temple was dark and mysterious, its walls covered in glowing alien symbols. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, and eerie blue firelight flickered in floating lanterns. In the center of the chamber stood a massive stone tablet, covered in an intricate maze of golden carvings. Eloza stepped forward, her voice solemn. This is the trial of wisdom. To pass, you must solve the puzzle of the celestial maze before the sacred heartless runs empty. Ryan peered at the massive tablet. The carvings seemed to shift and glow faintly, like they were alive. A soft rustling sound made him turn. Kyra was standing nearby, watching him intently. Ryan narrowed his eyes. She had helped him win the first trial, by secretly guiding him toward the vortex beast's weakness. If she tried to help him again, he had to stop her. The king raised his hand. Let the trial begin. A golden hourglass flipped over, sand flowing downward in a slow but steady stream. Ryan turned back to the puzzle, determined to fail. He pressed his hands against the stone carvings, tracing the lines without much effort. If he pretended to struggle long enough, time would run out and... You're going the wrong way. Ryan froze. Kyra had stepped up beside him, her golden eyes flickering with amusement. I can help you, she murmured. Ryan swallowed hard. I don't need help. Kyra raised an eyebrow. You struggled in the first trial. Now suddenly, you can solve an ancient puzzle on your own. Ryan clenched his jaw. I might surprise you. Kyra smirked. Oh, I doubt that. You don't even know where to begin, do you? Ryan stayed silent. She took his wrist gently and guided his hand toward the tablet. Her fingers were warm, her grip confident. Here, she whispered, tracing a barely visible path on the stone. This is where the energy flow begins. Ryan's pulse quickened. She was helping him win. Again. She was ruining his chance to escape. Again. But as she guided his hand, he noticed something in her expression. She wasn't just trying to help him win. She was testing him. Did she think he was faking it? Ryan exhaled slowly. He had to make a decision. Pretend to be stupid and fail, or prove himself again. His eyes flickered to the hourglass. The sand was almost gone. In a split-second decision, Ryan pressed his palm against the wrong path, activating the puzzle in the wrong direction. The entire stone tablet flashed red, and the carvings burned away. The hourglass shattered. The chamber went silent. Ryan failed. He turned to face the king, ready to celebrate his loss. "Well, I guess that's it." But instead of anger or disappointment, the king laughed. "Fascinating," he said. He did not solve the puzzle, but he understood its complexity. Even in failure, he has shown wisdom. Ryan's stomach dropped. "Oh no. His trial is incomplete," the king announced. "Tomorrow, he will face the final test." Kyra was smiling again, and Ryan wanted to punch a wall. The final trial. The fire of truth. Ryan paced in his chamber that night, frustration bubbling in his chest. He had tried to fail, and still, they found a way to keep him in the bond. "All right," he muttered. "Final trial. This time, I fail so hard they have no choice but to kick me out." But as the morning sun rose, Ryan felt an uneasy tension in the air. Eloisa entered his chamber, her face grim. "The last trial," she said, "is not one of strength or wisdom. It is one of truth." Ryan stilled. "Truth." Eloisa nodded. "You will step into the flame of destiny. It will reveal your true intentions. If you seek the bond, you will survive. If your heart is unworthy, the fire will consume you." Ryan's breath hitched. "What the hell?" Wait, he said quickly. "So if I don't actually love Kyra, I die." Eloisa's gaze darkened. "If your soul is truly against the bond, the fire will reject you, and you will walk away unharmed. But if there is even a part of you that does not wish to leave," she hesitated, "you may not survive." Ryan felt his stomach twist. This wasn't just about failing anymore. This trial would force him to confront his true feelings. His mind flashed to Kyra. Her confidence, her intelligence, the way she had helped him win without hesitation. The way she had looked at him last night, expecting him to fight back, expecting him to be her equal. Ryan clenched his fists. What if the fire told him something he wasn't ready to hear? A growing bond and a shocking betrayal. Ryan stood before the flame of destiny, his heartbeat thundering in his ears. The massive pyre in front of him crackled with an otherworldly blue fire, flickering unnaturally as if it were alive. It wasn't just hot. The very air around it vibrated with energy, sending a tingle across his skin. The final trial. This was it. If he stepped into the fire and it rejected him, he would walk away free. If it didn't, if even a small part of him wasn't ready to leave Kyra, then he might not survive at all. Ryan clenched his fists. I should want this. He had fought so hard to escape. He had refused the bond, tried to fail the trials, done everything he could to break free. So why was there a voice in the back of his mind whispering doubts? Kyra stood nearby, her golden eyes watching him carefully. The crowd of Zavarians had gone silent, waiting. Even the king and Prince Phelan were uncharacteristically still. Ryan took a deep breath. This was just another test. He took a step forward. And suddenly, Kyra grabbed his wrist. "Ryan," she said, her voice lower than before, laced with something different. Concern. "Are you sure about this?" she asked softly. Ryan blinked. She had never questioned him before, never tried to convince him to stay. But now she looked like she wanted to say something more. Ryan opened his mouth, but the flames roared louder, as if they could sense his hesitation. Kyra's grip tightened. "Be honest with yourself," she whispered. "Not with them. Not with me. With yourself." Ryan exhaled sharply. Then, without another word, he stepped into the fire. The truth within the flames. Heat exploded around him. At first, it was unbearable, searing pain rushing over his skin, deeper than anything he had ever felt before. But then, The fire changed. It wasn't burning him. It was reading him. A voice whispered in his mind, something ancient and vast, like the universe itself had spoken. "What do you seek?" Ryan's breath hitched. His mind flashed with memories. The first moment he had seen Kyra, her confidence, her elegance, the way she had helped him in the trials, guiding him instead of forcing him to obey, the way she had tested him, not to keep him trapped, but to see if he was worthy. Kyra hadn't needed to force this bond. She had been waiting for him to prove himself. And somewhere along the way, Ryan had stopped running. Somewhere along the way, he had wanted to win. His stomach twisted. "No, no, no, no. Do you wish to leave?" The voice whispered again. Ryan opened his mouth. The word yes sat on his tongue. But he couldn't say it. Because he didn't want to leave. The realization hit him like a comet. He wanted to stay. The flames around him shifted, growing warmer, welcoming. And then, they disappeared. Ryan gasped, stumbling forward. The temple was silent. The crowd of Zavarians stared, their eyes wide with awe. The king nodded slowly, as if he had expected this all along. Prince Valon looked furious. And Kyra was smiling. Not a smirk, not an amused expression, a real smile. "You passed," she said softly. Ryan felt his heart hammering. He had passed, which meant the bond was real. He was her mate, the night of the revelation. Later that night, Ryan sat on the palace balcony, staring up at the twin moons of Zavaria. Kyra approached, stepping beside him. "You surprised me," she said. Ryan sighed. "Yeah, I surprised myself too." She tilted her head. "You fought so hard to leave. But in the end, you stayed." Ryan didn't respond. Because she was right. Kyra stepped closer. "The bond isn't a trap, Ryan. It never was. You were free to leave, but you didn't." Ryan finally turned to face her. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" Kyra's smile turned mysterious. "I suspected." Ryan let out a breath, shaking his head. "You're impossible." Kyra laughed softly, but then a sudden crash echoed through the palace. Ryan shot to his feet. The doors burst open, and a group of armored warriors stormed in. Zavarians, but not from this kingdom. Kyra's eyes darkened. "Traitors," she hissed. Ryan grabbed a nearby weapon, his instincts kicking in. "What the hell is happening?" A booming voice filled the air. "You should not have let the human live." A tall, imposing Zavarian warrior growled, stepping into view. His armor was blood red, and his face was twisted with disgust. Ryan's gut tightened. Kyra's fists clenched. The king arrived, his expression grim. "General Zarvos," he said, his tone like steel. "You dare attack the royal palace." The warrior, General Zarvos, smirked. "I do what is necessary for our people." His golden eyes locked onto Ryan. "This human," Zarvos spat, "has no right to stand beside our princess, and now that the trials have bound them, we will take matters into our own hands." Ryan gripped his weapon. They weren't here for a battle. They were here for a coup. A full-on rebellion. Kyra stepped in front of Ryan protectively. "If you try to harm him, you will answer to me." Zarvos chuckled. "I was hoping you'd say that." With a sharp gesture, he commanded his warriors forward. The attack began. The battle for freedom. Ryan barely had time to react before the palace exploded into chaos. General Zarvos' warriors rushed forward, weapons gleaming under the moonlight. The air crackled with energy blasts, and the once peaceful halls of the Zavarian palace turned into a battlefield. Kyra was already moving. She whirled like a storm, her golden blade flashing through the air, as she struck down two attackers before they could even raise their weapons. Her movements were graceful, precise, and lethal. Ryan had no time to admire her skill. A Zavarian warrior lunged at him, swinging a curved plasma blade. Ryan barely dodged, feeling the heat of the energy weapon slice the air inches from his face. His instincts kicked in. Ryan ducked low, grabbing a fallen spear from the ground and driving it into his attacker's stomach. The warrior stumbled back, stunned, and Ryan followed up with a swift punch to the jaw, sending him sprawling. Another 2 warriors rushed in. Ryan gritted his teeth. He wasn't a trained fighter, not like Kyra or Velan, but he had spent years in off-world exploration, working alongside mercenaries and security teams. He had learned enough. He dodged a plasma strike, twisted around, and used the spear to trip his opponent, knocking them to the ground. Before the warrior could rise, Ryan slammed the spear's handle into his chest, knocking the wind out of him. Kyra caught his eye for a split second, a flicker of approval in her gaze before she turned and threw a dagger straight into an enemy's shoulder. But they were outnumbered. Zarvos' forces were pouring into the palace, cutting through the royal guards with ruthless efficiency. The king stood on the throne platform, sword drawn, fending off attackers while shouting orders. Ryan's stomach tightened. If they didn't turn the tide soon, the palace and the entire kingdom would fall. The betrayal. Ryan, Kyra called, dodging a strike. We need to get to the royal vault. Ryan blocked another attack. What's in the vault? A weapon, Kyra said, slashing an enemy across the chest. One that can turn this battle around. Ryan didn't need more convincing. He grabbed her hand, and they sprinted toward the lower palace corridors, cutting through enemy forces as they ran. Behind them, the battle raged on, the sound of metal clashing and explosions shaking the very foundation of the palace. But as they neared the entrance to the vault, a familiar figure stepped into their path. Ryan's blood ran cold. Prince Velan. Kyra stopped in her tracks, eyes narrowing. Velan stood with his sword drawn, but he wasn't fighting off enemy soldiers. He was blocking their path. Move, Kyra ordered. Velan didn't. His expression was unreadable, but there was something dark in his gaze. Ryan's stomach twisted. You're with them, Ryan realized. You betrayed us. Velan exhaled slowly, his grip tightening on his weapon. This isn't betrayal, he said. This is survival. Ryan clenched his fists. You sold out your own family. Velan's jaw tightened. Zavaria has grown weak. My father refuses to see it, but the old ways must fall. Zarvos brings strength, power. We cannot remain peaceful while the galaxy grows dangerous. Kyra's voice was like ice. You're siding with a tyrant. A tyrant who will win, Velan shot back. And I'd rather be on the winning side. Ryan gritted his teeth. So what now? You kill us? Velan hesitated. You don't have to die, he said. Ryan, you're an outsider. Leave now, and I'll make sure Zarvos spares you. Kyra, step down, and you'll still have a place in the new empire. Kyra's hand tightened on her sword. Ryan's pulse pounded. He could see it, the hesitation in Velan's eyes. He didn't want to kill them. He wanted them to surrender, which meant he wasn't ready for what happened next. Kyra moved first. She launched forward, her blade clashing against Velan's sword with a burst of sparks. Velan cursed, stepping back to block her strikes, but Kyra was faster, angrier. She fought with fury, driving him toward the wall with each relentless strike. Ryan saw his opening. He rushed forward, slamming his shoulder into Velan's chest, knocking him off balance. Kyra took advantage, twisting her blade and disarming him with a sharp kick to his wrist. Velan's sword clattered to the ground. For the first time, Ryan saw something else in his expression. Fear. Kyra raised her sword for the final strike, but Ryan grabbed her wrist. Don't, he said, breathing hard. We don't have time. Let's get to the vault. For a moment, Kyra didn't move. Then, slowly, she lowered her weapon. Velan exhaled shakily, clutching his wounded wrist. You're making a mistake, he rasped. Kyra's golden eyes burned. No, you did. She turned away. Ryan followed, leaving Velan behind as they pushed open the massive vault doors. The weapon that could change everything. Inside, the vault was lined with ancient artifacts, glowing relics, and shelves of weapons unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. But Kyra went straight for a pedestal in the center. Upon it lay a small crystalline orb, pulsating with golden energy. Ryan frowned. That's it. Kyra carefully lifted the orb. This is the heart of Zaveria, a weapon of unimaginable power. My ancestors sealed it away because it was too dangerous. Ryan exhaled. And now, you're unsealing it. Kyra nodded. If Zarvos wants war, we'll give him one. Ryan looked toward the vault entrance. Then we better hurry, because I don't think he's going to wait. Kyra clutched the orb, her golden eyes burning with determination. This ends tonight, she said. Outside, the battle roared on, and the real war was just beginning. The final decision, stay or leave. The palace shook as another explosion rocked the foundation, sending debris crashing from above. The distant sounds of battle grew louder, echoing through the marble halls. Ryan gripped the heart of Zaveria, the pulsating crystal warm in his hands, humming with an unknown power. Kyra stood beside him, her golden eyes fixed on the entrance, her sword gleaming under the flickering lights. They had no time to waste. We have to get to the throne room, Kyra said, her voice calm but urgent. If we activate the heart there, it will amplify its energy across the entire city. Ryan exhaled sharply, his grip tightening around the artifact. And you're sure this thing won't, I don't know, vaporize everyone? Kyra's lips pressed into a thin line. That depends. Ryan's stomach twisted. Depends on what? She looked at him, her expression serious. On who wields it. Ryan swallowed hard. Great. No pressure. The last stand. They raced through the palace halls, dodging collapsed pillars and fires burning in the corners. Outside, the sounds of clashing blades and energy blasts filled the air. The royal guard was still fighting, but Zarvos' forces were pushing deeper into the city. As they turned the last corner leading to the throne room, Ryan's breath caught. A barricade of soldiers stood in their way, Zarvos' elite warriors, heavily armored and blocking the entrance. And in the center stood General Zarvos himself. His blood-red armor gleamed under the golden light, his face a mask of cold fury. So, Zarvos rumbled, stepping forward. You finally stopped running, human. His gaze flickered to the heart of Zaveria in Ryan's hands. And you've come to hand me my prize. Ryan's jaw clenched. Yeah, that's not happening. Zarvos let out a slow, rumbling laugh. Do you even know what you hold? The heart is not just a weapon. It is a will of its own. It can sense weakness. If you are not worthy, it will consume you. Ryan felt a cold sweat break out across his back. Kyra stepped beside him, her stance strong. And you think you're worthy? Zarvos' expression darkened, more than a human outsider ever could be. Ryan exhaled slowly. It was now or never. The power unleashed. Zarvos charged. Ryan barely had time to react before the general swung his massive energy blade, its red-hot plasma edge slicing toward him. He jumped back, the heat scorching his skin even from a distance. Kyra met Zarvos head-on, her blade clashing against his with a burst of sparks. The force of the impact sent shockwaves through the air, cracking the ground beneath them. Ryan gripped the heart, feeling it pulse faster, stronger, as if it were waiting for him to decide. What do I do? Then, a whisper. Soft, ancient, inside his mind. Wield me. Ryan's breath hitched. The crystal flared to life, golden energy spiraling out from his hands, wrapping around his arms, his chest. His body burned with power, but not with pain. It was as if the energy itself was becoming part of him. Zarvos' eyes widened. What? Ryan threw out his hand, and the golden energy exploded outward, sending Zarvos and his warriors flying backward like ragdolls. The walls cracked from the sheer force, the palace trembling under the power. Kyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You can control it?" she asked. Ryan let out a shaky breath. "I think so." Kyra nodded once. "Then let's end this." The fall of Zarvos. Zarvos rose to his feet, his armor cracked, his face twisted in rage. "You will not take this from me," he bellowed. He lunged forward, raising his sword for a final strike. Ryan thrust the heart forward, and a wave of golden light engulfed the throne room. Zarvos let out a roar of agony, his body freezing in place, his armor splintering as the light swallowed him. His warriors screamed as they were swept away, vanishing into the energy. And then, silence. The golden light faded, leaving behind only the broken remains of Zarvos' army. It was over. The aftermath. The city was safe. The rebellion had been crushed, and the royal guard had regained control. The king stepped forward, surveying the damage. He looked at Ryan, the human outsider who had just saved his kingdom. "You have proven yourself," the king said, his voice full of something Ryan hadn't heard before. "Respect." Ryan nodded slowly, his mind still buzzing with everything that had happened. And then Kyra turned to him. "Ryan," she said, stepping closer. "It's over. You're free." Ryan's breath caught. Free. That's what he had wanted from the start. To go home. To leave. But now, he looked at Kyra, the woman who had challenged him, fought beside him, believed in him when no one else did. His mind flashed back to the moment in the flame of destiny, when he had realized the truth. He didn't want to leave. But did he have the courage to stay? Kyra studied him, waiting for his final choice. Ryan took a deep breath. Then he smiled. "Let's take it slow." Kyra's eyes widened slightly. Then, for the first time, she laughed. A real, full, joyful laugh. The twin moons of Zaveria shone brightly above them, and for the first time since arriving on this world, Ryan knew exactly where he belonged.